For this video, I wanted to go over some simple examples of what I call good graphics. When we draw as an interior designer or as an architect, we draw a little bit differently than we might typically sketch or draw otherwise. So these are just some tips that I'd like you guys to incorporate into your future drawings. The first one, and if you follow along in the posted not PDF, the PowerPoint, you'll see that there are about 20, looks like 23 or so examples of good graphics. The first one is known as Chisel the Point, and when you first sharpen your pencil, obviously you end up with a point at the end of your pencil like that. If you immediately start to draw and push a little bit too hard, that tip is going to snap off. So what we'd like to do is what I call chisel the point and end up with a point that looks a little bit more like that. Okay, and how we do that is taking a freshly sharpened pencil just at like a 45-degree angle on a piece of scrap paper or somewhere that you can soften the edge of your pencil, so you end up with this point that becomes chiseled. What's nice about this is you actually end up with a couple different points that you can draw with. If you hold your pencil a certain way, you can get a nice crisp line using that portion of the pencil, or you can use this kind of flattened edge and come up with a nice softer, thicker line, which leads us into the second principle here, which is known as a fuzzy line. A fuzzy line is just a nice soft line using that chiseled end of your pencil that isn't rushed. It isn't super precise, but it is controlled. Okay. Using the other end of your pencil, you could get a much crisper, sharper line, but sometimes a fuzzy line or a thicker line can be really beneficial in your drawing. The third principle is something I call hit, go, hit. You'll see this a lot in architectural sketching. The idea is that when you start a line, you kind of make a point, make a line, and then at the end of that line, make another point. Okay. A lot of times when you're, as a designer or an architect or interior designer, you're drawing while you're talking, and you might be thinking, making a line, thinking some more, making another line, and it kind of just reinforces the edges of the line. Okay, and it's just kind of a nice graphic that helps the eye see interest or creates interest in your drawing. Okay, the next type of line is just something simply known as the gap, and that is it. And this comes into play if you're drawing, if you were trying to draw a nice straight line all the way across your sheet of paper. Sometimes that's hard to do without lifting up your pencil. So with the dot, you actually lift up the pencil and allow your line to have a break in it. There's a couple reasons that you might do this. One is to create a line that's somewhat straight, right, without having to lift up your pencil. You can readjust, you can move your arm, and then just lay that pencil back down. It's a time-saving thing. If you were to draw a line and then you lift up and then go back and try to start from that point you left off from, then it actually slows down your process. Okay. And again, these little breaks, your eye is going to fill in, the viewer's eye is going to fill that in anyway, and it just can bring a little bit of visual interest. The next one is known as a dot, or sometimes known as professional dot. Sometimes at the end of a line, you'll see in architectural sketching, design sketching, a dot at the end of a line. Okay. Let's see, the next one is, I think it's overlap. Yep, overlap corners. This is another time-saving thing. If you're drawing a simple shape like a square, it takes some time to draw precisely. You pick up the pencil, you lay it back down, and you're lining up your drawing on the corners. That takes some time because you have to really zone in and get that corner dialed in. If you want to draw it really quickly, you can go ahead and draw like this and actually overlap those corners. Still a square, is still conveying the same amount of information, but we're not so worried about slowing down our pencil stroke here and then picking up our pencil and making sure it lines up perfectly and then coming down, slowing down. It's just a quick way to draw something, right? It's clear that it's a square. It could be the roof of a house. It could be whatever, whatever really. It's just a quick way to draw a line and pick up another line. Okay, so overlapping corners is an example of good graphics. The next one is what's called a mechanical line. The mechanical line is think of it as a precise line. If you're drawing a cube, for example, this is a kind of a little bit heavier line, right? And it's a quick, deliberate line that is pretty precise. Okay. That's known as a mechanical line. And when you think mechanical, just think a little bit more precise. It's kind of the opposite of your fuzzy line. Okay. Then we have a freehand line, and I want you guys to use this quite a bit on the assignment here. This would be a much looser line, a little bit slower in the way you actually draw it. Okay. It's using that fuzzy line, but it's you're not worried too much about precision. You're looking at trying to draw something pretty quick. Okay. See, the next one here is known as a construction line. This is kind of like a projection line in our 1 point perspective examples. Okay, overlapping, or what did I call it? Sorry, construction line. This would be kind of drawing maybe the wireframe or the projection line of a shape, okay? And really dialing that in really lightly and really loosely, and kind of making little incremental corrections to the overall shape, okay? And then you could come back and fill that in with a more deliberate stroke or precise stroke or mechanical line on top of that, right? Once we've laid down that more sketchy line that's known as the construction line. Continuous line is if you were to draw this shape again, but don't actually lift up your pencil. The continuous line would be, and this is just a really quick way to convey information, right? Is you're drawing the shape without actually picking up your pencil. And you can overlap, and make little corrections and draw that way as well. Okay, that's a quick way to draw. It's known as the continuous line.